All right. Yeah. Good. Action. All right. Welcome to This Should Work, the video thing that we're doing now. I'm Jay Margulis. I've been doing our podcast for the past 8 sessions, and we'll be doing it for many, many more. And
I'm Andrew Morin, and I don't do anything.
nice. You may be hearing a little ska music in the background, and that's because the new brew house that opened up a couple doors down, Tribes Ale House, is playing some music. Try to edit some of that out, but otherwise, enjoy the background music. It's not actually that great, is it? It's actually pretty terrible.
Filtered through these microphones, it might sound alright.
Alright, so we might have some of that in the background. So, for those of you who have listened to our podcast already, This Should Work. We do some interviews with people who are craftspeople and who are scaling, their work up to the production level. And I think what we're going to do for this show is something a little bit different, and that's we're going to show making stuff that we do. Yeah. So we thought for our first show, what we would do is bring out just a bunch of stuff and talk about some project ideas that we could do for the show, and we could narrow that list down to a group of maybe 5-10 things, and if we like those things. We'll end up running them on the show, and those will be our subsequent episodes. So this is episode 1, and it's figuring stuff out.
And teasing.
Great, all right, so we've got a bunch of stuff, right? And this is mostly, I'm going to pull this up here. This is mostly stuff from my house. I collect lots of electronics.
Odds and ends.
Yeah, it's bizarre. We actually looked through this bin a little bit before this started, and you took some pretty camera video.
Yeah, we got some candid video of the first going through of this pile.
Yeah, so we'll see how this goes, but maybe as we pull things out, if you have any questions or thoughts on any of them, maybe we can do some of that.
I can feed you some elaboration questions.
Yeah, and then we can go from there and figure out what we want to do. All right, so. First thing I want to pull out is actually my project book.
Right.
So this is my, Okay, so my project book is, and we're learning, so this may all be in the actual video. My project book is full of different game ideas that I have. It's full of all sorts of other fun stuff that I've come up with over the years, as well as clippings and other things. So that's my project book, and I'm going to have it out to a blank page for when we start workshopping ideas. All right, so let's pull it back. So what do we have here? Okay, so we also have, now we're getting some of the interesting things. This is a Raspberry Pi Zero. So,
as in the first one they made?
No, Raspberry Pi Zero. So they've got Raspberry Pi, the main line of computers, microcomputers. And then they have the Raspberry Pi Zero. And the Raspberry Pi Zero is a much smaller, a little bit less powerful version of the Raspberry Pi. But its advantage is it's this big. And when we pull out one of the Raspberry Pis, I'll show everybody the size comparison. But we have things of different sizes. Okay. Got a bunch of extra keyboards and stuff, and we have more. We're actually filming this at our makerspace, Space Lab, down in the south suburbs of Chicago. So we have all sorts of other stuff here, but this is my fun bin that I picked from home. So where's my Raspberry Pi Zero? We'll put this right here. We're going to start adding on to this. So this is a synthesizer kit that I bought and then never built. I'm sure you have projects. Everybody who's watching probably has projects like that where they started something and they never got it.
On the candid video, I'm sure I mentioned the tweeter. The Tesla coil tweeter project.
Okay.
$9 or something.
Yeah.
No instructions. There's no instructions on it.
Okay.
But the board has been labeled. The actual circuit board has been labeled with the number of the transistors and so on.
Okay.
Put them here, solder them in place. You're done.
Okay. So we've got. Maybe we'll throw that out here as a project, right?
I'm definitely going to do that project.
Okay. I have a receipt printer. So prints out your standard receipts with the BPA chemical
Oh yeah,
in them.
that.
So I've got receipt paper printer paper. So I have extra paper for it. More static bags that are useless. We've got these ThoughtCon badge hangy dangly things, and that's because we've got all of these prototype and Island of Misfit toys. Here, I'll hand some of these to you while I'm pulling through this to find the other ones. ThoughtCon badges. Now these have, some of these have ESP8266s on them, which are very inexpensive, $2 to $5 on eBay chips with Wi-Fi, 8 I/O pins, so they're fully programmable, and you can hook them up to all sorts of sensors and do all sorts of fun stuff with them. So I love those things. So some of those have that on them, and some of them have, I think it's an ATmega32U4 chip, which is the same chip that you can find on an Arduino Leonardo. And the cool thing about that is the Arduino Leonardo chip allows you to simulate keyboard inputs. So you can hook it up to a computer and tell the microcontroller to simulate a spacebar input, or up, down, left, right, or a mouse click. So you might be able to do some really fun stuff with these, and they're fully programmable. So we've got our own little things here. So this is the ThoughtCon 8 badge here. And this one has the 18 mega chip on it, and this is the ThoughtCon 9 badge, and that has the ESP8266. It also has an LCD screen, some buttons, and this old one has some RGB LEDs and then potentiometers on it to dial things around. This is what we've got in front of us. We also have some other project ideas that you've been mulling over. I'm sure I could come up with some too. But why don't we talk about what other things that you've got in mind, Andy?
Well, I've been impressed by your electronics knowledge and just your ability to retain little bits of numbers about all of these Raspberry Pi models and things like that. Which I'm a little older and I never got into Raspberry Pi, so it's one of those things that I look forward to learning from you.
Sure.
Is how to get one of these doing what I want. It doesn't seem complicated, but I've never taken the time to self-educate.
Okay.
Where I'm much more of a physical hacker, where I will take something that shouldn't be used that way and use it that way.
Mm-hmm.
When I fix a car, it's the Polish style. We're glad to have past that. But
yeah.
I have a much more backyard engineer way of fixing things. Baling wire, gum and duct tape.
Got it.
So on my list of projects that I know I need to do, because otherwise, why am I even here?
Right.
There's a project that I decided I needed when I noticed that the ducks who live in my pond never seem to make it through a brood. Their chicks are always eaten by the coyotes or the foxes, or the rabbits or whoever else gets into their kids. The baby ducks never make it. So what they need is a floating island. They need something that is gonna remain high and dry near the pond, that the mammals can't get to.
Okay.
So that's a nifty bit of concrete work that I've seen it done.
Okay.
Where someone else, I think they were making planters out of it. They were just making vases by saying, hey, here's a vase that I like. I'm gonna dip this terry cloth towel into raw concrete, drape it over the vase, and now I've got a concrete copy of said vase.
Okay.
I'm gonna use that technique to make floating devices.
Okay.
Something a little more close to home that probably belongs on another channel altogether. My house has the anti-siphon faucets, so that when you turn them off, there's a valve that lets the water drain out of the hose so it doesn't freeze during the winter.
Okay.
Now, two problems with those is that they've been there long enough that the anti-siphon no longer works, so the water stays in the hose, so it's not doing its job there.
Right.
And when I actually turn on the faucet, the valve just shoots water out the top. So I waste gallons of water. For every gallon of water that makes it on whatever I'm trying to hit, another gallon of water goes down the side of my foundation and into my basement.
Right.
So I need to cut those off, replace them with more appropriate valving for my situation.
Sure.
And I don't know, have you ever done plumbing? You sweat pipe? That's a plumbing term.
Yeah, I know. It's like soldering before.
It's a bit like soldering.
pipes.
It's very much like soldering.
No, I've never done that. I've done plumbing in the sense of like getting the glue, the purple.
Yeah, for PVC pipe.
Yeah, for PVC pipe, which is like Lego plumbing, right?
Pretty
You're
much.
kind of putting
Pretty much.
parts together and.
Yeah, the union's not going to bust you for working on plastic pipe, but
Right.
as soon as you start working on copper,
Right.
the plumbers union has a say in it.
Yeah.
They want to know why you're not using lead. So.
Right.
I've also got, my two daughters are older now, so I've got a backyard with a couple of things that they used to like to play with, and now I've got a 2-year-old at home, almost 2.5. And him being a boy, now I know I'm going to need to give him a little more of an active playground. And I've had some things that I was meant to put out for the girls, but they kind of aged out of it before I got it up there. My brother came across a pretty heavy gauge rope cargo net that doesn't do me any good laying on the ground where it's been for the last 10 years. So what I need to do is basically modify a tree to hold it up. So I have a long drill bit and some pieces of steel cable, some stainless steel cable. And I'll put the cable across the top and hang the cargo net from that.
Okay.
And then kind of expand the little tree house that I've got out there that attaches to the tree swings.
Okay.
So that's something I intended to film anyway, and
Yeah.
will it work? It should work.
Should work.
Something a little more clever that I don't think I've ever seen anybody else do, although I know people do it. There's a fellow who claims to have reverse engineered the Egyptian techniques for moving stones. You've probably seen his internet videos where he's got a giant block of stone and he's a carpenter by training, and and he's 75 years old or something, and he cuts little wooden pieces, and he can move 4-ton blocks anywhere he wants just by using these 12 techniques that he's reverse engineered, and he swears the Egyptians must have used when they were setting stones for the pyramids.
Okay.
That was a long intro to, I have a shed in my driveway that's about 8 feet closer to my house than I want it to be for reasons. And so now that it's been sitting there for 4 or 5 years, I finally need to shove it 8 feet back into place, and it probably weighs 1,000 pounds and will require some nifty tricks.
Okay.
Maybe not as nifty as the Egyptians.
Yeah. Well, they used aliens anyways, right?
That's what I heard.
Okay.
That's what I heard.
Okay.
And the last thing on my list here is just recently, I could back up a little. Where I grew up, a couple towns north of here, we had a ridge, one of the very few non-flat bits of geography in the area, and it was covered in trees. And right on our property line, it seemed to split. And there were Scotch pines to the east, and oaks and hickories to the west.
Yeah.
And so I grew up with these Scotch pines. We actually used to cut them for Christmas trees.
Yeah.
It was 50-foot trees.
Yeah.
We'd go up, climb up, cut the top off of them. And it was a unique Christmas tree.
Yeah.
They smelled fantastic because they were fresh. So just the other day, I picked up some fresh pine cones that had just fallen off some of the Scotch pines that were in the landscaping at my girls' dance class. So
All right.
I intend to see if I can germinate them.
So let me summarize here. We've got floating island for ducks, outside plumbing, cargo net playground thing, moving the shed, and Scotch pines.
Scotch pines.
All right. All
That
right.
barely scratches the surface, but it'll do for now.
So we've got all that stuff. We've got this grouping of random crap that I have. And then I've got a couple things that I've been interested in working on too. Some of them we've actually already looked at. So I want to finish the project where we were building this near space module. I think there's something to
The near space
near
balloon.
space module.
The near
thing.
space balloon has so much star power.
Yeah.
To pick a random phrase. Everybody loves the near space balloon. We've
Yeah.
had it at all of our
No pun
displays.
intended though? Was that on purpose?
It probably. There's a Freudian thing
Somewhere in the back of your head, yeah.
But it's one of the most popular displays we do at
Yes.
various maker fairs.
Yes.
Everybody wants to see, oh, you have footage from 90-some thousand feet or
Yeah.
wherever we were?
Yeah.
Yes, we do. But can you see the curve?
Yeah.
That's the question.
So I want to finish that near space module. I think there's something really cool about that. I've also really wanted for the longest time, and I've never got around to building, and I'm going to write this down as I'm saying these things, my Dobsonian telescope.
Dobsonian telescope. We've got some of the secondary lenses here.
Yeah, so we have a couple components here that might be integrated, and what I'm hearing as you're walking through the projects that you want to work on, and as we're talking about some of these things, is maybe what we can do for some of your projects here, floating island for ducks, cargo net playground, is tech them up a little bit so that we can use some of these things in some way to add on to those projects. So this is why I have my computer in front of me, is because I actually keep a running list of other projects I want to work on in Evernote. And Evernote is my platform of choice for picking, for saving project ideas. And so I'm not going to click on some of these because people can't. Yeah, they're actually quite top secret. That's not a lie either.
Oh.
But for some of these other things, we can show. So another project that I've been wanting to work on is the Nintendo Labo. And so I want to make my own Nintendo Labo kit, and we know that I've got one of these things at home, and they have these competitions for. So the Nintendo has a console called the Nintendo Switch, and Nintendo Labo is an add-on for the Nintendo Switch where they have these cardboard kits. You build these cardboard toys, and then you integrate the sensors that are attached to the Nintendo Switch as well as its screen into the cardboard, and you turn it into a whole nother creation. A piano, or a little house that you can put buttons and knobs into, or an RC car that you can drive around using the haptic feedback, or the haptic feedback from the motors in the controllers, so it kind of vibrates around, all sorts of other stuff. So I've actually been working on Labo stuff that I think might be fun to do. And then I've got this other fun little project backlog here, and I'm going to only pick two things from it. You already see telescope on the Evernote thing, right? And the other two things are Project Liberty, which is a project that I started, and then kind of got I got an award for it, got a little bit of attention, and then it fell by the wayside. And Project Liberty is a controller project where you take these custom controllers that I built and you average all of the inputs from those controllers into one, so that it's a bunch of people playing the same game and having to cooperate together. And then I've got the final one, and this is something that I've been very passionate about for a while, is a music sculpture. And so it's a sculpture where you have these tubes typically, and the tubes or whatever else plays sound stands on its own, and as wind passes through, the tubes are varying lengths and so forth, and they make different sounds. So some of these are a little bit grander than others, but maybe we can build up to them. So now we've got 10 projects. Floating island for ducks, outside plumbing, cargo net playground, move the shed, Scotch pines, near space module, Dobsonian telescope, Nintendo Labo toy, Project Liberty, and music sculpture. And that's the stuff that we've got in our heads. But what about all this stuff? Is there anything that you see, Andy, as you're looking at all this stuff? And I know some of this you might not know what it is, but we basically got things that can sense, can control, and then can compute. We've got things that can collect video. We've got things that can collect air quality. We've got things that can detect light. We've got things that can make sound. We've got things that can hook up to the internet. We've got a receipt printer, which is kind of interesting. And so the way I'm looking at these things is what information can they take in, and what things what kind of information can they give out? And so what that tells me is then what do these things afford? What do they allow us to do? What are you seeing?
I tend to gravitate toward the cameras. As you know, I do some videography on this as a side job. So I'm sort of interested in, is there a custom firmware that could be produced for camera use? Now I don't know what I would do with that. I know another nice use for cameras, especially that might fit in with your Dobsonian telescope, is astrophotography.
Okay.
Another thing I'm into. Mostly I just take my camera and point it up, but there are more sophisticated things you can do.
So that goes with the telescope, right? Like you're saying astral, or we can also do maybe like a telescope that's controlled, right?
Well, that's kind of what you need. If you're going to do any sort of
of course, right?
Really astrophotography, it needs to track the sky.
To control it. Yeah. So, okay, I like that. Anything else you're seeing here?
Infrared sensor was another one.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to come completely out of left field on you here, because there was an idea I had back before Google was already fielding vehicles that could drive themselves.
Sure.
Was what would the minimum sensor, what would a reasonable sensor package be if I wanted to make my car self-driving?
Okay. All right.
Ultrasonic sensors, some sort of vision system.
Okay.
And then don't even get me started on the interface that would have to have with the car to make it.
What if we took a
accelerate and brake?
Step back on that, and we said maybe instead of making it self-driving to start, what would happen if you put an ultrasonic sensor on a car, and what kind of information could that provide?
Absolutely.
The drive.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay. So I got a couple constraints that might help guide us. We've got Halloween and Christmas coming up. It's right now October 5th, 6th. I don't remember the dates.
It's Saturday.
Right. We can detect motion. We have all sorts of things that can, at our houses, that can light up. I've got a pumpkin that lights up. We've got all sorts of little other things that can be plugged into a power source. And now we can control that power source if something happens, right? So I'm going to say, just in a general kind of, what could we do? We can make a Halloween theme.
Heart attack inducer?
Heart attack inducer. Oh, I love that. Okay. I'm going to put heart attack. If there are no heart attacks,
we have failed.
We've failed. And then maybe like a Christmas heart attack inducer too, huh? No, maybe not. Maybe not that.
Christmas isn't the time for heart attack.
Ooh, and we have speakers too. We have things that can make noise.
Right.
We have things that can detect motion. We've got things that can take pictures of people
while they are having a heart attack.
Okay. All right. So now we're taking pictures. We're doing the audio. It could be like one of those Six Flag rides where they take a picture of you at like the worst moment possible,
and then email it to you.
Text
it to you on your phone.
Ooh! I just want to add this idea out there because we have a receipt printer. We'll take the picture, but if they want it, they have to pay for the picture, and then we can print out a receipt.
They have to pay for you to delete the picture.
Right. Oh, I like that. Okay. All right. So we're getting somewhere with that. I like the area that's working in. What else do we have here? We've got all sorts of things to watch, so you can collect data when people are moving by your house. You got like an outdoor camera. I'm thinking even when you're talking about the floating island for ducks, and we're talking about integrating things with technology, we can have a camera somewhere.
Yeah, there needs to be some sort of
like a live stream
observation of it.
Yeah. We might even be able to live stream that thing. So okay, I'm seeing the same kind of similar things here with the cargo net and playground, where you can have some sort of a device, or maybe even
you almost need like an iPhone and can't get up button.
Oh yeah.
God forbid.
So or you could have a speaker in it, where you could say "come inside" or something like that, right?
The modern dinner bell.
Yeah. I'm seeing, because Andy and I live right across the street from each other, and our kids play together, And we've got these things here too, where maybe we can build something for the kids where they can have, without a
telepresence.
radio, have like a little telepresence or something like that. Like a telepresence chat system for kids. And we should open source any of the plans that we do here online. I think that's pretty cool. Okay. What else? What other thoughts do we have here? Scotch pine.
Well, the Scotch pines kind of jumps off into my whole greenhouse, where I've already replumbed it so that I can get my well water unsoftened directly up there, and then that needs to become a watering system.
I have some hydrometers at home, so we could do an automated, like a hydroponics system or a water delivery system.
Well, and then the 55-gallon drums are meant to become an aquaponics system.
Which are what? Tell everybody, because they don't know what those are.
I have a source of 55-gallon drums because one of the places I work with in my professional life does saltwater exposure testing.
Yeah.
So they have to buy this chemically perfect salt water.
Yeah.
Exact the right amount of salinity. And so it's 55-gallon drums of salt water. When they're done with it, they don't have enough of them for a recycler to come out and pick up 200 drums. They do 4 a year, 6 a year. So they've got nowhere else to put them. So I've got these drinking water.
Right.
They had drinking water. The fellow that I work with up there says they taste like a little too salty soup. Like the water that's in there. Anyway, so it's very, very clean plastic. It's got coatings in it so that none of the plastic gets into the super pure salt water.
Yeah.
It's going to be really good for fish,
Okay.
which is what aquaponics is, where you take the water that fish swim in and that they do other things in, and take all that water and clean it out by filtering it through the bed of plants. So the plants take the nutrients from the fish take nutrients from the plants in return, and you have a cycle.
Yeah.
It's basically a self-contained ecosystem. Ecosystem.
Okay, I like that. So we got a water system for plants. So we did 5 of your ideas, 5 of mine, and I've got one more proposal for our 5th thing. How many, can you count these out? How many of these badges do we have here? I mean, it's got to be at least 10 plus a bunch of ESP8266s. We've got a lot of things.
At least 5 of the 9s.
Yeah.
It's like 3 of the 8s, and then
one of that.
One of this.
We've got a bunch of ESP8266s with Wi-Fi on them too. So I'm going to propose some kind of a game that we can make for our kids. So if they could put these badges around their neck and play some kind of game all on the same network together, maybe when they're in proximity with each other, or maybe it's something for Halloween, but I like the idea of having something around your neck and they can all talk to each other, and when we get together, we can give the kids this game that we made, right?
Yeah.
And we're repurposing something that's already here. It's got they've got a lot of power to it. They've got their own screens on them. They've got all this other awesome stuff, and maybe we turn that into a game. Yeah.
You're going to gamify it.
I'm not going to gamify it. I hate gamifying things. We're not going to gamify anything. We are going to make a game though. All right. So we got 5, 5, and 5 now. Why don't we go down the list and let's identify the ones that let's nip some off. Let's go through each one and we'll say, this doesn't really fit, or oh, I really like this one. You know, this is one that I'm super invested in, so let's keep it on the list. So we've got 6 things, and I want to propose something. We've got 6 things that, no, we don't have 6. We have 14 things, right, that haven't made the cut. I'm going to read them off and ask everybody who's watching to put in the comments which thing they want us to build, okay? So 2 things. Which thing from the list of things that we didn't pick do you want us to build? And second of all, which thing from the things that we did pick do you want us to work on first? So which thing do you want us to work on first that we already chose from, and which thing that we didn't include in our list do you want us to pick as well? So the stuff that we did not pick: Andy's outside plumbing, the CargoNet playground, the Scotch pines, my list of things that we didn't pick: the near space module, the Dobsonian telescope, and the musical sculpture. And the joint list is the ultrasound on car, the water system for plants, and the proximity game. Okay? Those are the 14 things we did not pick. You get to choose one, and we'll work on it in one of our first episodes. All right, the 6 things that we did pick that I want you to choose from. Tell us which one you want us to work on first. And by the way, we're going to be releasing these once about every 2 weeks, but we're going to be recording these, even probably more frequently, depending on how these projects roll. We'll see. All right, the 6 things: floating island for ducks, move shed and improve shed, the Nintendo Labo toy, Project Liberty, the Halloween heart attack thing, or the chat system for kids, telepresence for kids. Does that sound good?
It does.
All right, so that's our list of stuff. We've kind of done a survey of the things we have here. We've talked a little bit about what we can do with some of this. We didn't even talk about the synthesizer, but I'm sure we could
Nick, I mentioned.
Yeah, make that a quick little kit build or something like that if people are interested
Is
in
that
that.
is that not relatable to your musical sculpture?
Oh, it could be.
I don't need a musical shed, I'll tell you that.
All right. Well, maybe you could. Maybe put the musical sculpture on the shed with the telepresence system inside of it and put it on a floating platform in the middle of the pond in your backyard and turn it into a playground.
Using 55-gallon drums, I could make the shed float.
Oh, yes you could. Okay, I like where your head's at. All right, so that is about all we've got here for our first episode. Most of them won't be like this. Most of them we're actually going to be building stuff. There's going to be a lot more hands-on tinkering, but we thought we wanted to give all of you kind of an inside look into our thought process and how we picked projects and how we whittled our list down, and also give you an opportunity to tell us what you want to see us make. So we'll be releasing these about every 2 weeks. Yeah, we have to pick a day still, but rest assured the day that this gets released will probably be the regular day that all the other ones will get released.
De facto day of release.
Yes, it'll be the de facto day of release. So we'll be doing that, and everything will be posted on shouldworkmedia.com, where you can also find the podcast. All right, anything else you want to add? No? We're good? All right, I think that ends it for This Should Work, the video thing, episode 1.
YouTube edition.
Thanks for watching.